Okay, here we are at the Gibson Guitar Studios here in London. Gives me great pleasure. Flown in especially from America, Nashville, Tennessee.
Just for this interview.
Literally been in England just like 2 hours. It's Damon Johnson from the Black Star Riders, only for the next week.
The next 6 shows, yes.
Yeah, and we're actually here today to talk about Memoirs of an Uprising, your new solo album. But let's talk about Black Star Riders, as you are a member of that band. You've got 6 more shows in the band. And I think it surprised a lot of people when you announced that you were leaving. So exactly why is it that it's coming to an end?
Yeah, I just, it's so complicated to like put it into a nice tight sentence. I love that band. I love those guys. I love the songs, everything, all the work that we've done. It's just been amazing. We were touring in America with Judas Priest back in the spring, and I just sort of had this epiphany. I had a lot of thoughts about kind of the next 5 years, the next 10 years, and just where I would like to see myself. Black Star Riders has had genuine success here in the United Kingdom. The fans have been amazing. We've just constantly been touring out of the country. It's ironic that we were actually in America with Priest when I kind of came to this crossroads in my mind. But I just feel like I'm ready to kind of tell my own truth, write my own songs. I had really sort of given up on that after my band Brother Kane split up back in early 2000. I did the sideman thing for quite some time, playing with John Waite, Alice Cooper, and then joining Thin Lizzy in 2011. And really meeting Ricky and writing songs with Ricky was just one of the greatest experiences that I never saw coming. I didn't necessarily feel like being a songwriter was something I was going to be doing a great deal of. So as I put this album together, I had the songs already kind of getting ready to mix when we were doing the Judas Priest tour, and I just thought, you know what, I think this would be the right time. Rather than commit to Scott and Ricky and Robbie and Chad to go in and do a 4th album and spend another touring cycle doing that when I could be working definitely in North America, a little closer to home, but then come back to the UK on my own, play my own songs. And
obviously, like you say, Black Star Riders were hugely successful. They proved all the doubters wrong, and you were very much the integral part of the band. But you say you sort of away from home from a lot of the time. A lot of people think it's great to be a rock star, but when you have got a wife and family and young children, that must be pretty tough being away from home all the time.
Yeah, man, there's no denying that. For me, it's just a price I'm just not ready to continue to pay. It's so easy to get kind of intoxicated on the adulation of the fans. Again, what a pleasure it is to play with the guys, and it's actually kind of strange, I guess, to talk about it. There's nothing negative about being in Black Star Riders other than I was just away from my family much more than I really wanted to be. So the good news for the guys is that they can carry on and they can travel and tour as much as they want. Admittedly, I was always a little bit of this sour grape whenever we would have the emails and the conversation would come up, hey, the tour dates are coming in for the summer. And it would be like, I would be the first guy to raise his hand and go, wait a minute, guys, 8 weeks, that's the whole summer.
Well, I say, it does come across that you struck up a real friendship with the band, especially Ricky Warwick, because you don't like the acoustic tours, you write together.
Yeah.
Scott Gorham come out to the London date, played on Jailbreak with the Encores. So you're still welcome into the fold, and there's future collaborations possibility there, is there?
I would love to, I would love to. That's a door that's always going to be open from my standpoint. I'll never be able to express my gratitude to Scott for even wanting to take on an endeavor like this. You know, a lot of legendary artists of Scott's caliber, you know, by this point, they're already starting to think a little bit about slowing down and thinking more about, you know, maybe traveling, doing whatever you do when you start to slow down in the music business. And Scotty loves it, man. He's a soldier, you know. He wants to keep touring, he wants to keep writing, keep making records, and he damn well deserves to be able to do that. And you know, the guys are going to be fine. They're going to carry along, and they're going to do great. And I'm always going to be super proud of my contribution to it.
So I think it's been in the band about 6 years, I believe.
6 years.
What has been the finest hour?
Whew. There's been a few. You know, there's been so many great headlining shows that we've done in the UK. You know, there's just been this real exuberance from the fans here in the United Kingdom. And I know that a lot of that springs from Scott's legacy, the Thin Lizzy story. You know, we knew that going in. In a way, we were sort of counting on the Thin Lizzy fan base to kind of help us get it off the ground. So I just have so many memories of, you know, playing songs that we had written, new material songs like Kingdom of the Lost or Blindsided or Bound for Glory, and seeing the fans react just as intensely as they would if when we played Jailbreaker or The Boys Are Back in Town. Wow, what a tremendous honor, what a tremendous accomplishment, you know, for the five of us in the band.
I think the greatest testimony is, because it did involve from Thin Lizzy, there was a lot of, especially the older Thin Lizzy fans, you know, they say, oh, blah, 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 it should be Thin Lizzy name. You proved them wrong by becoming Black Star Riders. And on the last tour, he was only doing like 2 Thin Lizzy numbers in a set.
Yeah.
Which was a great achievement.
Well, it is a great achievement when you consider where we started, and that's a testament to, I feel, the quality of the songs and just the confidence that we have as a band, you know, what we had grown into. We knew we had some quality material, and really the fans kind of dictated that. We had always said that, hey, if the fans want to hear more of the Thin Lizzy stuff, then we're happy to do that. And you know, they've just been so supportive. Even, you know, Heavy Fire, that album came out just almost 2 years ago. You know, immediately the kind of the chatter we would get from the fan base was, hey, now you guys have 3 albums worth of material.
Exactly.
You can easily do, you know, a full show and just play your own stuff. So it was exciting for us. I think it was great for the fans too.
You just mentioned that you toured with Judas Priest in the States, and more recently, I think only 2 weeks ago, in South America, Brazil, Argentina, Chile, supporting the Priest. So did you check them out yourself? Do you have time to watch them?
Priest?
Yeah.
Oh, often. You know, Judas Priest occupied a pretty big chunk of real estate in my musical brain, you know, especially, you know, back in the early 80s, mid 80s. I call those my metal years for sure. You know, in later years, I kind of, I guess I diversified. I was just into so many different kinds of music, but Priest was my favorite band of that era. You know, we would have those debates, you know, who do you like better? It's Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, and then this new band called Metallica came along, and I was always
Priest,
the Judas Priest guy.
Obviously, like me, you grew up watching KK down in Glen Tipton.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, due to his illness, it's now Richie Faulkner and
Andy.
Andy Sleep, pretty gone my head. So what do you think of Andy and Richie working together?
Incredible. I mean, you know, Richie's my mate. We've been friends for quite some time, dating back to before he even joined Priest. So he's an incredible guitar player, and he absolutely brings the heart, the passion, every aspect of it, you know. It's very easy to see why the Priest family, you know, is so proud of Richie to have him involved and be a part of it. You know, the feat that Andy pulled off this year was unfathomable, you know. You know, for Glenn to kind of announce to everyone literally in the 11th hour, hey guys, I don't think this is the best move for me to go out and do a full tour. Wow, that was tough.
Yeah,
he just did incredible. He just did incredible. And you know, I know that Glenn and Rob and the rest of the guys, they could tell, I think instinctually, that Andy had the right, not just the right pedigree, but he had the right work ethic, he had the skills. And they knew he would put in the time, as he did, you know, to make it special. So, real pleasure to be out with those guys.
Excellent, it's good to hear. So let's talk about it. You know, it's your new solo album. I think it's your third proper full-length solo album, is it?
It really is.
Yeah.
You know, over in the 2000s, I've put out 2 acoustic records, which were just like for fun. And then I made a 5-song EP back in 2016. And yeah, I think that EP, it was called Echo. I think that sort of got the ball rolling for me a little bit. I got a lot of encouragement from my great friend Nick Raskulinix, who produced Killer Instinct and Heavy Fire for BSR. We're kind of neighbors in Nashville. And you know, Nick was just like, hey man, don't forget about your songwriting. Don't forget about your voice, and don't forget about the things that you want to say. Because look, as you very well know, in this day and age, most of us middle-aged rock and roll guys, everybody's diversifying. You know, everybody's got a band. They do solo projects. They do acoustic. You know, just like Ricky and I have been doing for quite some time. So, you know, it just felt like a really fulfilling thing for me to do in the context of everything else that was on my calendar.
The majority of the songwriting credits are between you in a collaboration with Jim Troglin. Tell us more about Jim.
Yes, thank you. Jim is a longtime friend of mine. We kind of came up together in the Alabama music scene. Really starting around 1990 is when he first came on my radar. And Jim always went by the rock and roll name Johnny Blade. So Johnny Blade had a band called the Autumn Lords. And I remember the first time I heard of them, I was like, man, that's the best name I've ever heard in my life. And I went to see them, and they were just special. Kind of a hot mess, you know, very kind of punk rock, but with almost definitely the looseness of like the New York Dolls, and they weren't afraid to dress up, and but like songs you could dance to. The girls always loved to sing the Autumn Lords. So Jim always had that. He was always committed to the beat and the feel and the way the songs came across, and a lot of simplicity. And that was really what I wanted to bring into my collaboration with him. Because I knew he would. Because I have a tendency to overplay, as most of us guitar players do. And he, a lot of times, he would just take bits out and go, hey man, why don't you just make it dumb? And you know, that's a word we use a lot, dumb, in the best possible way. But I really felt like it was a great idea on my part to reach out to him and say, hey man, I got this concept, kind of these lyrical themes, I'd love for you to write it with me. And we just had the best time. And you remember when we started this, it was just another kind of side project. So as we speak now, Jim is at home in Alabama, just like kind of flipped out. He can't believe that this piece of art that we've created has really kind of been the platform for me to step out and just do this full time.
And does Jim actually feature on the album itself?
I'm sorry?
Does he perform on the album?
He's singing a couple background vocals.
Yes,
Yeah. There's a couple really fun songs on the album. There's a song called Making Peace with This Wicked Beast. Jim sang
great title.
background on that. That was his title.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I knew he would bring to the songwriting, and he absolutely delivered. But I think going forward, you know, I certainly want to write with Jim always, and I think going forward, I'd love to get him to play on, you know, bring his guitar style, because it's not so disciplined and so, you know, sometimes I can play too in tune and too precise. There's a looseness to how he plays.
So please do tell us who is in your band.
Well, my band consists of the same guys that I've had really for the last 3 years. We played on the Echo album and my live album that I put out last year. But on drums, I have a longtime friend, Jared Pope. I don't know if you were aware that I was in a country band back in the late 2000s, 2007 and 8, called Whiskey Falls. And that's how I met Jared. He wound up being the drummer in that band. I just knew he was extraordinary, and I kept telling him, man, we're going to make a rock record one day. Now we've made 3. Tony Nagy is my bass player, and I have to give a lot of credit to my great friend Chuck Garrett from the Alice Cooper Band. Chuck and his wife live in Nashville as well. And when I first started wanting to go out and play some solo bass, Chuck was my first call. And he was starting his Bisto Blanco thing. So he said, hey man, I just saw this guy play bass. He's the baddest ass bass player I've ever heard. He goes, you need to check him out. So that's how Tony got aboard. And then Tony Higbee is on guitar, who I've known for quite some time now, about 6 years. And Tony's great. Can play anything I can play on guitar. Really brings a lot of great background vocal support to everything I'm doing.
Excellent. And are they all new compositions? Are these all new songs?
All brand new songs. None of these, with the exception of one song. The very last song on the album is a song called Glorious. Yeah, that I wrote with Kerry Kelly. And that was, wow, that dates back to 2010, 2011, when we were still in the Alice Cooper Band together. And it was just a piece of music that he brought in one day, and it was one of those events for me. Like as soon as I heard it, I just started writing, man. The lyrics just kind of fell out, and it really was a last-minute addition to this album. I knew I wanted one more song, and I wasn't sure. I was looking through a few options. And I was like, oh, I forgot about that one. Let's do that.
That's good to get out there. My favourite song on the album, The World Keeps Spinning Round. Great song, very sort of spaced out, Floyd-ish kind of track. Great guitar solo from you.
Thank you.
What's your favourite songs on the album?
Well, that's definitely one of them. Simply because the way the song came together, Jim sent me a lyric, and I actually sat down at the piano because I wanted to try to keep the chord structure very simple. And I'll never forget the day I made a little demo of that song and sent it to Jim, and it really blew him away, and that got me excited for him to react like that. There's no question I love the opening track, Shivering, Shivering.
Very apt today.
Yeah, man, that was the song that, for whatever reason, it just gave me the rocket fuel to kind of forge ahead and kind of see, like, this needs to be a 10-song album, this needs to be the opening track. It's a great groove. It's almost like a straight-ahead AC/DC kind of.
It sets a tempo for the whole album, really.
I agree, man. Thank you. But lyrically, I just thought it was really special. You know, there is a bit. It's not a concept record. I would never call it that. But there's no question. There's a theme that runs through all the songs. Some struggle, some confusion, some fear, and then it ends up with the lyric in Glorious, which is, you know, more celebratory. Yeah, Shivering, World Keeps Spinning Round. I really like Dallas Could Have Been a Beatdown. I had a great experience.
Another great title.
Thank you. I had a great experience with that song 2 weeks ago. I sent it to my new friend, Steve Lukather from Toto. And there's a guitar passage I play in there that I lifted one of his solos note for note. And you know, I just sent him an email and said, hey man, you gotta hear this and let me know if you're gonna sue me.
He went, hold the line.
And the great thing about Steve, well, it's actually the end of Rosanna. When you go home, you can check it out. Listen to what he plays on the end of Rosanna. And I kind of did my own sort of southern Billy Gibbons, slow, kind of bluesier version of it. But Steve wrote me right back and was just laughing. He said, wow, man, that's great. And it just got me excited to see him get so, you know, make him happy like that.
Excellent, excellent. Tell us about the artwork. 'Cause it's a great little piece of artwork. You know, it's like is it a crow? Is it a raven?
It's a hawk.
A hawk.
It's a hawk. Yeah. Thank you. That story really begins with my wife, Linda. I had anticipated just having a photo of myself on the cover. I've never done that, and so many, you know, like when I think of solo albums, if I think of Gary Moore or Jeff Beck or Peter Frampton and even Jimi Hendrix, you know, there's an image of those guys on most all of the album covers, so I kind of thought I would go in that direction. But she brought up the point that the hawk has always sort of been my spirit animal. My whole life, you know, growing up, my dad would always point out a hawk, because we grew up in the country, so we would see them often. So when she mentioned that, I was like, okay, that's a pretty good idea. So my great friend Stephen Jensen, who I've worked with Stephen now for about 15 years, and I came to him with that idea. He immediately loved it, did some research, and he sent me an illustration one day of essentially what you see there, just a pencil drawing, and we were really blown away, like, all right, this is a great start. But I had Stephen get so much credit, the color in it, you know, you can see the struggle as if the hawk is coming out of, you know, maybe he went into, you know, maybe he's hunting for food, or maybe he got in a trap, and you know, there's that, you know, his head is up and he's coming up out of that struggle. I just thought it was powerful.
No, it's a striking image.
Powerful imagery, yeah.
I say your album's only got 10 tracks. Something that I personally like, you know, less is more in many ways. Is it important? Do you think many bands have lost the concept of what an album is? An album should be like 45 minutes, 10 tracks?
You know, I do think that concept might have gotten lost a bit, you know, back in the 90s, and, you know, when CDs were such the thing, and there was no question bands would go in and just whatever they wrote, they would put it all into the album. And it just felt a little bit too much. It's not like I wanted to, I think if I had have had other parts of the story to tell and it took writing more songs, I would have certainly included them. But I just felt so complete about how it felt, these 10 songs. I've never felt like it was too short. I've never felt like there was something else that needed to be said. And for me, it's just it feels like a great starting point for me, being a full-time solo artist. I pledge to maybe play a little more guitar on the next one. You know, the fans are just now getting their physical copies through the Pledge Music, you know, because that campaign ended just about 3 weeks ago. So people are getting their CDs and vinyl.
Talking of which, is out on Pledge now. There's loads of many different packages you can get. Is it out physically in the shops now or not?
No, not yet. That was another thing that sort of changed in my plan. You know, once I decided to do this full time, I sat with the people I'm working with to promote the album, and they had the idea of to go ahead and fulfill the pledge commitments to the fans that had pre-ordered it, essentially supported this record. You know, the fans had
literally funded it,
totally, they completely funded it, and so go ahead and fulfill those orders, but then let's wait and give it a little time to set it up properly. And you know, that's why I'm grateful to you guys, you know, for me to be able to talk to you now, because I know it was a little confusing, because technically, really and truly, the entire album's not going to be out on Spotify and Apple Music until the first week of March.
Oh wow!
But that gives us plenty of time, you know, January, February, to set it up. You know, hoping to maybe get a little radio airplay, and we're gonna see what we can do, man.
Excellent.
Give it a shot.
And just moving away from your solo work, more recently you appeared on a Gary Moore tribute album. Still Got the Blues, put together by Bob Daisley, and we've had many friends. You played on the track Don't Believe a Word. So what did Gary Moore mean to you?
Gary, he means as much to me now as he did, you know, when I was coming along. I just think Gary's the best. I think Gary's the greatest electric guitar player of all time. there was an intensity in the way Gary played. It didn't matter if it was a ballad, it didn't matter if it was an up-tempo song. He brings a fire that it just can't be replicated. I've certainly tried. I've spent many hours, you know, back when I was a kid, I would back that needle up on, you know, Victims of the Future and his cover of Shapes of Things, man. I put that up as not only great playing, but the tone of that guitar that they recorded, that was just no comparison, man. And then his blues period, I was totally into that as well, you know. So when I found myself standing next to Scott Gorham and we're playing, you know, Black Roads and we're playing Waiting for an Alibi and, you know, these songs that Gary had such a huge part of, it was incredible for me. So when the call, you know, the email came from Bob Daisley, it's interesting because Bob was reaching out to me because he wanted to get in touch with Ricky. And it was difficult. Everybody was busy and there was so much going on. And Bob had sent Don't Believe a Word. And his whole thing was just kind of coming together. I don't know that he had everybody on the record yet at that point. So he sent me the track. And initially I was just going to play some guitar on it and maybe get someone else to sing it.
I've not actually heard it myself. I'll take it. Is it the slow version that Gary did on his solo album? Or?
It's a completely different version than any you've ever heard. Bob came up with a great arrangement somewhere between the slow version and the up-tempo one. It's a very different kind of a groove. It was fun for me, and I could tell it was fun for Bob. You know, because Gary didn't necessarily, you know, he didn't write Don't Believe a Word, but he certainly has some great performances of it. That old grade was...
So yeah, exactly, I was about to mention that, yeah, it's phenomenal, yeah.
Incendiary,
yeah,
incredible. Yeah. So, what a thrill for me to have Bob Daisley, who I've always held in such high regard, you know, to have me not just play the guitar on the song, but sing it as well. It's a real honor.
He also did a track called Texas Strut, with Bush Shills singing. It was the original Skid Row that featured Gary Moore. So.
Oh, right on. Yeah, now I didn't play on Texas Strut,
oh, right.
But I know that's on the record. But of course, Ricky did an incredible vocal on Parisian Walkways, and you know, Steve Morris on guitar. Jesus, man. It's incredible, incredible.
On your 2000 solo album, Dust, you did a cover version of Thin Lizzy's Borderline from Johnny the Fox album. So why did you choose that track?
Borderline was just always my favorite Lizzy song. You know, I was so steeped in my love of that band that I had played along with so many of those songs, even in some of the band, you know, garage bands, you know, club bands, whatever. But the lyric to Borderline, it was one of the first song lyrics that kind of changed the temperature in the room for me. I had always been so immersed in guitar, the lyrics always took a back seat. And I remember buying the Johnny the Fox album on a cassette tape, and I would play it in my car. And whenever Borderline would come on, it was transcendent. And what a sad story, you know, this character that Phil is singing about. Maybe it's him, maybe it's, you know, someone else he's observed, but it just really, it is moving. And so when I first started doing some solo acoustic dates, I just threw that song in one night. Immediately got a great reaction. So you can imagine the thrill for me that shortly after Dust came out, there was a friend of mine that lived in Minnesota who knew Phil's mom, Philomena, and had kept in touch with her. And he sent her a copy of my CD. And completely unbeknownst to me, total surprise, she sent my family and I a holiday card and said the most beautiful things, you know, about listening to my version of the song. And she didn't have to do that. You know, it was really, really special. And, you know, that's something I will always treasure. So incredible then that, 11 years later,
Exactly.
I would be playing in the band. Wow.
Well, it's been fantastic talking to you, Damon. The album Memoirs of an Uprising.
Yeah.
You can get it through Pledge. I'm sure you can still get it if you still go to the Pledge.
You can get it on my website.
Yeah.
The physical copies are available on my website, and you can look for the first single to hit all the streaming services the last week of January. And then we're going to start kind of...
Fantastic. I'll say about the album. Great piece of work.
Thank you very much.
And your career with Black Star Riders finishes this week. You're playing in Buckley tomorrow, then Southampton on 29th, Lermont and Spa. You're playing the Planet Rock Stock down in Treco Bay. That'll be nice and warm and cosy down by the seaside. And the home fourth, and your last gig will be in Sheffield on December the 3rd. So
I brought my scarf, I brought my gloves. I'm ready for the weather. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's going to be a celebration.
it will be a celebration, exactly. Black Star Riders, if you've not seen Black Star Riders, then go and see them, especially this week. One of the best live bands out there. Damon's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you. Cheers.